Hi Komal,
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Thank you. How are you?
Very well, very well. How are all
Thank you
your
so
studies and
much.
everything going?
Everything is going very smooth and nice.
Good. Good.
First of all, thank you so much for taking out time to join this session. It's truly an honor to connect with you. With your kind consent, may I begin with a formal introduction?
Sure.
Sure. A very warm welcome to all the listeners and viewers. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the special episode of Executive Development Program in ESG, Carbon Markets and Sustainability at the School of Law, Dhirubhai Ambani University. I am Komal Mathur, a participant of this EDP at School of Law, Dhirubhai Ambani University, and I'm truly honored to welcome a very distinguished guest, Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti Sir, India's most respected chartered accountant, chairman of Shailesh Haribhakti and Associates, and one of India's most respected thought leader in ESG and corporate governance, and a very strong advocate of sustainable and responsible future for businesses. Sir has served on the boards of several of India's leading companies and has played a pivotal role in shaping the modern discourse on sustainability linked strategy, risk oversight, and responsible corporate behavior. So, thank you so much for joining us today. It is an absolute privilege to have you on this platform with us.
Thank you. It's an absolute delight to be with people like you who are so interested in the subject which is most critical to our times. And I'll tell you through the course of our interaction why I say that.
Thank you. Shall we begin with the discussion?
Sure.
Sure, sir. Sir, as you have been one of the earliest champions in ESG in India, over the last decade, India has seen rapid developments from SEBI's BRSR framework to increasing investors' expectations on sustainability and governance. So, from your vantage point, how do you assess India's ESG journey so far? And what are the biggest shifts that you have observed in how Indian companies view ESG?
Excellent question, Komal. BRSR was the starting point, which focused the attention of large companies on something that they would need to report on. It started with pure reporting of what you have done. There were 150 odd criteria which would recognize your contribution in the E, which is environment, S, which is the social, and G, which is the governance aspects. And that's what constitutes the BRSR. So, what underlies BRSR and what creates the BRSR report is the real story that we need to focus on. Much more importantly than just the top 500, 1,000 companies putting out a BRSR report is that their entire supply chain of millions of enterprises in India are in compliance with what is called Scope 3 compliance. Where does a bulk of your carbon footprint emerge? It emerges not only from your work, it emerges from the work that comes into your factory and into your premises and into your life from the outside world, which is called Scope 3. There is also a forward march where what you sell to your customers is also blended and processed and finally delivered to the end consumer if you're not the end B2C producer. Then you got to get worried about what happens as a result of your transferring your carbon to your customer. So we need to look at this whole issue from a planetary perspective as to what is it that we can do through the way we operate all our lives that we will use only those resources that the planet has in bountiful measure, but has an upper cap on them. Today, by August of this year, we had already consumed the whole planet's available resources. Right now, in November, we are borrowing from my children and my grandchildren's future, from your future, Komal. That is why this subject is so important, that we have to all learn to live within our means in terms of not putting out more carbon than the earth has the capacity to bear, process, and take back and convert. So the whole story has moved from just the BRSR reporting, which is scope 1 and scope 2, to scope 3, to planetary consideration, and to full carbon sequestration, carbon capture, and carbon conversion to energy. Suppose we have to go to Mars, okay? We have to become an interplanetary species. There is no craft that humanity can build which will have enough fuel to do both journeys, to and back, right? So we will have to create the energy to come back in Mars, on Mars, in order that we can fuel our journey to come back, right? What will we do then? We will have to convert carbon to energy to power our journey back to our planet if we want to come back home. So it is so relevant that we start broadening our minds and our vision and our thinking about energy, about carbon, about transference, about how do we live a life that can be abundant but sustainable. So my big thought for all of you youngsters and for all people is to be conscious that we have to live an abundant life, but that life has to be sustainable.
Thank you so much, sir. That was an incredible insight and insightful. And with your permission, may I move to the next theme?
Of course.
Sure, sir. So, as a renowned CA, you have often spoken about the significance of sustainability with financial stewardship. What, according to you, is the role of finance professionals, especially CAs and CFOs, in driving ESG strategy and sustainable value creation?
Again, fantastic question.
Yes.
Komal, I'm going to answer by holding up for you this. What do you think this is?
So, book, the name is not clearly visible
Right.
to me.
But what is it?
Can you please?
It is an
The
annual
Rhythm Symphony.
report. It's
Okay.
a balance sheet, a boring balance sheet. But we have converted this into a 6 capital driven reporting story. It's a series of stories, the like of which has never been written in India before.
Okay.
This is a collector's item of a financial report. It has been put out by a company called Generali Central Insurance Company of India Limited. It's a general insurance company. But it accepted my thought that we should report on things which tell the reader about the future. About the past, there is a limited interest. But what you can signal as your potential is so much more important. It's common sense, right? You're not so much interested in the past as you're interested in the future. Am I right in making that assumption? So this kind of reporting and this kind of annual report in the form of a storybook, which tells you about six capitals. And what are the six capitals? It is the natural capital, which answers to the environment, the E of ESG. Then there is the human capital, you and me, working, creating, wanting to do better, wanting to participate, wanting to create value. So the human capital. Then there is the reputational capital, right? Far more than the assets which are on the books of a company is the value of the reputation. Because that reputation brings your customers back to you, attracts people to come and work for you, satisfies people that you are serving. All of that is the reputational capital that a company has. But all of this you cannot do unless you are innovating. Can you do it without innovation? So, therefore, there is what is called the innovation capital. What are you doing which is new? What is solving the next problem of humanity? What is the next problem that you're going to devote your attention to? All of this you can't do without high quality, high performing physical assets, can you? Therefore,
We cannot.
you need to talk about the physical capital, the offices we work in, the factories we build, the processes in the factories that we build, the warehouses that we have, all of the vehicles that we use, all of those assets have to be high quality, high performing. The physicality of your business has to be. And finally, you do need to worry about your P&L and balance sheet and numbers, so financial capital. So these are the six capitals which define the journey forward of an organization and also gives you insights into what happened in the last year and in current year. So it gives you a full picture which draws from history and takes you on a journey to the future. This is going to become the standard way in which all companies will report their performance. All major companies in India are going to follow this kind of logic of six capitals. And the more your institution teaches and learns and understands this idea and does research in it, this is a very powerful topic for research for your institution. So take it up, tell people about it, make sure that people hear about six capitals and the whole idea that you need to have things which give you a window into the future.
Sure, sir. Thank you. I'll try to take this idea forward and share with people and the institutions I'm connected with. And also, it was a really incredibly enriching response for us and all the people in this field. So, moving towards my next question. India's climate commitments and the emergence of the Indian carbon market have generated a significant interest across all the sectors. Many companies, especially the hard to abate industries, are now exploring the carbon reduction and the credit generation pathways. So, how do you view the role of carbon market in India's transition to net zero economy?
Yeah, again, very interesting question. At one point in my life, I was stoutly opposed to carbon markets because I had said that we need to do absolute reduction to zero. And the only task that humanity should set for itself is to have not just net zero tomorrow, but net zero for the entire history of our planet. Think about it. What a much larger concept that is. It is a historical accident that we discovered coal and oil before we discovered the power of wind and sun, right? Just historical accident. If we had first discovered how to draw in solar power and wind power and find a way to store it while, because these are not continuous sources of energy, we would have been on a completely different path. We would not have to even think about hard to abate industries. One of the highest ones of that is the power sector, which produces energy from coal and from oil, right? If we had discovered the sun and the wind before we discovered coal and oil, we would have had a different world. We can get back to that world. Why? And we must go back to the big thinkers in this field to draw inspiration. Elon Musk said at his annual general meeting just 7, 8 days ago that even if we were to extract the entire fusion value from destroying Jupiter, the sun's potential for energy would still be rounded off to 100%. So that is the power of the sun. That is the amount of energy that the sun can abundantly provide to our planet. If we can find a way to store it, to buffer that energy, to make sure that we have enough battery capacity, the next gigafactory that ought to be built and which Musk is building is for creating batteries to buffer and store energy. Half the energy that is generated is wasted away because it is not buffered, it's not stored. There's not enough battery capacity. India has begun to think of what is called BESS or battery. I forget what E, S, and S, but it's something to do with battery storage. Okay. What India is trying to do is combine wind, solar, and BESS. And India has now notified very strict renewal obligations, renewal power obligations. So Indian industry has to gear up to this new paradigm of being in compliance with the RPO regime. What will the RPO regime do? It gives you a quota of what is your obligation to use renewable power. If you use that much renewable power, you're all right. If you use more than that, then you create a carbon credit. If you use less than that, and you're using fossil fuels for the balance, then you need to buy carbon credits. And that is how the carbon market is being created in India. Unfortunately, as we speak, the value of carbon credits is extremely low. It is in cents. Okay. At one time, it was $13 per carbon credit. Now it is down to 5, 10 cents. So there has been a complete collapse in this whole carbon market. And particularly as the world started pushing back and the US started moving towards raising energy from whatever source you can find. That's what President Trump's new mantra is. That go out, drill, baby, drill, he says. Go out and do fossil fuels, go to coal, and go do whatever you can to just raise the energy because they've fallen so far behind. The whole of US produces 1 terawatt of power. China produces 10 terawatts. So there is that much of a gap between US and China. India will by 2030 be able to produce half a terawatt. So there is a phenomenal amount of work that we as the human race have to do to make our world abundant, sustainable, democratized, and affordable? That's a long answer to a short question, but this is the background. And you all should understand this as young minds who are exploring what can happen in the world. Just imagine if we are able to capture solar, store it, and release it into the grid in an orderly manner without having the fluctuations and having very steady frequency and high quality power, then why would you produce from a commodity which is so polluting that it creates the largest carbon footprint? That is, and then we get to nuclear and fusion and all the other sources of renewable power. So we are experimenting with biogas, and we are experimenting with municipal waste being converted to green hydrogen. So all of those are being experimented with to create a whole basket of energy, which is renewable.
Thank you so much, sir, for offering such a different perspective, and I'm sure that it will add value to my understanding as well as understanding of all the viewers and the listeners. So, moving towards our next question.
Yes.
As you have mentored countless leaders and served us on several boardrooms, based on your rich experience, what does responsible leadership in ESG era look like? Or the following question, what I intend to ask behind this is like, what message you would like to give to the already persisting professionals and also to the young professionals entering in the ESG and sustainability field?
How nice. Lovely. So the responsibility of leadership is to become conscious of what we are doing. The era will belong to conscious leadership, which will deliver to humanity a sustainable, democratized, demonetized, digital world full of intelligence and full of the value that each one of us as human beings wants to actually consume, but in a responsible, conscious manner. That is where leadership will distinguish itself as we go forward. And you take all the great leaders in, in the world today, all of them in some part of their heart and in some part of their mind are working towards this consciousness to make sure that we will not stop growing, we will not stop consuming, we will not stop progress. We will harness the full value of AI. We'll harness the full value of abundant energy that is available. I told you, the sources of energy from the sun are inexhaustible. No matter what growth we generate, it doesn't matter. And so there is abundance sitting there. All we need to do is to find a new paradigm of cost, new paradigm of value. The marginal cost of producing a unit of energy from solar is the lowest of all sources of energy. Did you know that? It's absolutely the lowest. But because there is a capital investment, which is long term over the life of the producing or generating asset, that we start thinking short term. If we take a full life perspective, there is nothing more economical than solar or wind power. There's nothing more economical than an EV mobility of all sorts, and nothing more powerful for the human race than circularity. All the 17 SDGs that the UN put out and which 193 countries signed up for can be all encompassed in three things. renewable power, EV mobility, and circularity. You do that exercise, another research topic for you all. How do these three ideas roll into the 17 SDGs? In order for all of us to be able to enjoy the abundant nature of how God has created the universe. Who has created all this? The universe has been created for us to enjoy. We took some wrong paths, and therefore, my message to all of you youngsters and students is find the pathway to that net zero world and write about it, talk about it, speak about it to your parents, speak about it amongst your friends, because it is our planet, it's our home. We don't have really a plan B. That's my message. Use your plan A. Be sustainable.
Thank you, sir, for your remarkable perspective, and your advice for the young entrants would truly be motivating and inspiring. Also, as per our time requirements, I would like to thank you so much for sharing your invaluable insights with all of us today, and your perspective on ESG, sustainability, finance, and leadership truly enrich our learning and also will inspire our students and professionals who are part of this program. It has been an honor to have you with us, and we deeply appreciate your time and guidance.